Welcome to the Adventures in Nerddom. Today we're going to talk about Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, with Sean and Mike.
The Skeptic and the Indigo Alchemist.
We're brothers.
So how'd you feel about it?
I thought it was, depends on on what you've experienced prior to watching it. I know as a fan of the original Star Trek series that I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, see, and here's the issue I generally took with it, is that I didn't hate the first Star Trek movie. It was fine.
I liked the first Star Trek movie a lot.
The first Star Trek movie is actually pretty good. And I think what happened is that J.J. Abrams, when he made that first Star Trek film, wasn't a fan of Star Trek. And so he wasn't trying to jam all of these Star Trek references into it. They're there. But they're not like, look, it's Star Trek! Look, it's Star Trek! He wasn't trying to convince you. And so you could kind of more look at it as its own thing.
Well, it's also really different because in the first movie, it wasn't based off anything that was in the original series.
That's true.
This new movie is a new take on the Wrath of Khan.
Spoilers, by the way.
Sorry.
But if any... Oh, okay. No. That was it was rumored before that Benedict Cumberbatch was Khan. It's just true. It just happens to be true.
I thought that was obvious going into it, but anyway...
You know what?
No?
I didn't want to believe it, but the way they made it out with all the strength and stuff is just oh yeah, he's Khan.
I had thought it was already confirmed, but apparently not. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I only say so because they don't right at the beginning go in he's Khan. It's through the course of the film they reveal that he's Khan, and I even think if you go onto the IMDb, it might be different now, but I know if you used to, it would say his fake name, which was John. Bullshit.
I have no idea what his name actually was.
It was John something.
Anyway,
I don't remember. It was something stupid.
So my basis for not liking the movie as much as the first one, or as much as I had hoped to, is because
you can compare it to the Wrath of Khan.
Well, there's that.
You know what?
The Wrath of Khan I've only seen all the way through once. Every other time it's been a little
bits
sketchy,
and pieces,
but
yeah.
It's not the comparison to the original Wrath of Khan that bothered me. It's more the comparison to the Star Trek series and other movies as a whole.
Yeah,
because Star Trek and really, I know you were going to say this eventually, but Star Trek and Star Wars, they're both incredibly different.
It's so different, and now it's really hard to differentiate because Abrams has both.
Mm-hmm. And what I was talking to someone about yesterday, or whenever I saw the movie, Star Trek and Star Wars, they take a very different pursuit in their audiences.
Absolutely.
Where Star Trek is about, not so much about action and, wow, this is really crazy, everyone's going to see it. Star Trek is more this intellectual kind of thriller.
And here's the way I actually recently thought about it, because I after watching Into Darkness, I did go back and watch Wrath of Khan, and when they do the space battles in the original series, it's not so much fight. It's a cat and mouse game. It's the difference. Star Trek and Star Wars is the difference between watching a cat and mouse chase and a dog fight. They both have their reasons for existing, and they're both a lot of fun and interesting, but in different ways. And this one took the Wrath of Khan was the cat and mouse chase. Even in the final battle, it's I have to outwit this guy. We have to outthink him. And this one was a dog fight. The final conflict is just punch him a lot.
Yeah, it really was.
Which was ridiculous to me. He earlier on... Okay, I have to go off on this scene because I hated it. The scene where they show the Klingons sucked.
Oh, yeah.
It had some merit. It was a really cool choreographed fight scene. The problem I have with it is that in this new Star Trek universe, there's no established continuity for what a Klingon is. And the only tidbits you get in the first movie is in a deleted scene.
Yeah.
And you don't even get that much of them. They just stand and be imposing. And so we can't really judge how powerful they are.
Well, I don't think it's really that, because this is just a movie universe, so they really can't get too deep into, they can't get into the intricacies that the series, that the multiple series could.
Oh well,
And
more what I'm saying is like they use that scene to show how intense Cumberbatch is. Like that he's so strong he could take out this whole horde of Klingons without any trouble. But like we don't know how tough Klingons are. And so it's not really establishing how strong he is, it's just establishing how pointless Klingons are in this new movie.
I think maybe it's setting them up for a later movie.
I hope so, because it's kind of cool that now they're talking about this bubbling conflict between the Federation and the Klingons, which did exist in the original series. Yeah. And always exists throughout Star Trek.
Yeah. It was mostly, the Klingon thing was mostly they are really taking from the original series and doing that the Klingons and the Federation aren't friends yet.
Yeah, and it's a really good thing.
And I think there was actually a Klingon-human war during that series.
There is, and well, there's something, because they haven't established like there's no treaties established between the two. Something happened. You and I are not like the biggest knowledgeable Trekkies on the planet, but we know that something happens between the original series and Next Gen that more or less satiates, or at least temporarily satiates, the conflicts between the two groups. But again, the issue with this movie is like it's actually one of my big problems with this movie is that there are a lot of things like we could have a story, but we're not doing the story. One of the things that upset me most right from the get-go is at the beginning of the movie, Captain Pike takes away the command of the ship from Kirk. Yeah. But before he returns to the Enterprise, he's captain again. It's complete. He says, "We're taking away the captainship from you, and you have to return to the Academy." The next scene, though, he's like, "You're going to be my first officer on the Enterprise, so you don't have to go to the Academy." And it's just like, so why did you say this? Why did we set this up?
There's really
that
no
could have
permanence.
been a movie.
Yeah, there's no permanence in the actions that are taken in this movie. Literally one scene later. In every single direction.
Every time.
Like, I don't know. Are we allowed to do big spoilers in this one?
We've done big spoilers already. Who cares?
So there's this one scene in that Kirk dies in the traditional sense where Spock was supposed to die.
Yeah,
and then a couple scenes later, they're just like, no. Apparently we've discovered that our
Khan's blood
brings
which
people
for
back
some
from the dead.
reason Bones decides to inject into a tribble,
which makes no sense.
Which
whatsoever.
I take issue with, because I really hate that they include the tribble. For that it was completely non sequitur. There was no build-up to the tribble. There's no reason for it to be on board. There's no reason for him to inject Khan's blood into the tribble. Like, you figure he's taking the blood to test it or to sample it, but, like, injecting it into a dead tribble, which are essentially garbage.
Yeah.
Like, they're trash. They're trash monsters, or they're trash creatures, and everyone hates them. So why bother injecting this guy's blood? But then it's just like, in this movie universe, which also upsets me, J.J. Abrams does not use any of the established alien races from the original series or from any of the Star Trek series, aside from Vulcans, Klingons, humans, Romulans. And so far as Klingons and Romulans, he's changed the design entirely.
Well, I don't have a big problem with that, because this is a new interpretation.
I don't either, but it's more just like I'm pointing it out. And it's not so much like, at least so far as the Romulans go, it's not too drastic. But it's like, these clearly aren't the same Romulans that we saw in the original. And actually, the only Romulans we ever see are Nero and his crew. So...
Yeah, and they were kind of like their societies.
They're criminals. They're kind of criminals.
No, they were a mining crew.
Yeah,
and they were really I don't know, poverty kind of people.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, but. And so they're not really a good representation of what the Romulans are in this universe.
What we're really talking about with that J.J. Abrams not using actual races is more in the crew of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And it's not like it would be that hard. There are a lot of alien races in the Star Trek universe. A lot.
Yeah, but they kind of just pulled a Star Wars and
it's just like
threw some weird creatures onto the ship of the Enterprise. Which never really happened in...
No, never happened.
In any of the Star Trek
If there was
series.
ever an alien...
Well, actually, no, I'm not going to totally say that. There were a couple episodes where they did that.
Well, it's usually like if there was an alien on board, or if there was someone who wasn't human on board of Federation. Yeah, because like the Federation is from Earth, and usually when you see someone who's not from Earth in the Federation, it's usually a big deal, or they explain it or they talk about it because there are absolutely the Federation is an all-inclusive group, and does have aliens, but we sort of have really confusing messages in this Federation. Like I don't really understand it. And I don't know. The Federation in this, we understand in the original series that the Federation isn't a military group; it's the government. It is the government, in a sense, but in this one, it just seems to be the military. And like that's fine. Like obviously, it is part military, but they don't really think of themselves that way, which is really confusing. Like honestly. It's weird. Whatever. Yeah. The way I tend to think of it, it's like in the original series and in the series in general, it's more of like a UN, where they do have like armed people, but that's not their focus.
Yeah, but I don't know. This is the kind of the more early Federation than all of the other series.
That's true.
And they're still developing, still becoming what
a good
Federation will be.
Yeah.
And if you can ever call them a good Federation, they're
There's
kind of
so many evil people in the Federation,
and sometimes it's because aliens are taking over seats of power. But anyway, there was one more thing that I didn't like about the movie.
There's a lot of things I didn't like about the movie.
But
can we? Sorry. Go ahead and say your thing.
Well, it was really, I noticed this in the first, I think, 20-30 minutes.
I noticed a lot of problems in the first 20-30 minutes.
I noticed the formula that J.J. Abrams used for the first one being used again.
It really is exactly the same formula in that...
And it wouldn't bother me because television shows do the same thing, except they tend to switch it up because they have so many different episodes.
Yeah, here's the thing. Television has an excuse in that they have a lot to push out, and it's hard to escape a formula when you're writing weekly episodes.
Yeah, but with this Star Trek movie, I was
they had 4 years to create a new formula and they didn't.
Well, like I'm not totally comparing the ending to the original ending to the first one, but the beginning with the whole Captain Pike dying and
someone becoming incapable of doing their job, so someone else gets it.
Yeah,
which was totally happening left and right in the first movie.
Yeah, I was a little off put by it because this is like, especially with the death scenes. Mm-hmm. The first one really got me emotional. I defended it to everyone who was like, "This is really cheesy. I don't really want to watch
the first death scene."
The death scene.
When Cumberbatch attaches. Oh
no! In the first Star Trek, when people say like, "Oh, this movie's not very good," I would always bring up the first scene, like, "Oh, it's super emotional." Awesome.
Yeah. When his dad dies. Yeah, I cried when I first saw that.
Yeah,
scene.
But now seeing it again, I feel like, I mean, the formula clearly worked in the first one, but it kind of insulted me this time.
Yeah.
Like, Star Trek fans want to see a progression of story that makes us believe, like it has to be believable, and to use the same formula twice is kind of like
movies.
You guys, my fans are
stupid.
Nuts. Yeah, they're stupid, and they want to see the same things over and over again.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Abrams. I used to defend Abrams a lot, and like I think he gets a lot of crap. And I used to be like, no, he's actually a really good director. Give him some slack. But after seeing this movie, I really have to go, no, he's not that great. And when I started thinking about it, he's never wowed me as a director. Like, he makes pretty decent movies, but, like, honestly, actually, the only 3 movies I can think of he's done is the 2 Star Trek movies and Super 8. Those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head.
I thought Super 8 was pretty awesome.
It was a pretty good movie, but can you tell me the story of it right now?
No.
We own it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I never watched it. I never watched it on Blu-ray. And it's because J.J. Abrams, while he is a good director, he's not above the herd. You know, he's just another guy who does a Spielberg impression.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he does it well, but he wears it on his sleeve. He is clearly doing Spielberg.
Yeah.
One thing I really want to talk about are the characters in this movie. Because more, I think, than the first one is there's a huge departure. One I really, really, really despise. I despise Uhura in this movie.
Aww.
I do. Well, and here's the thing. Like, I liked her in the first movie. She had a role. She did something. But in this film, she was just Spock's girlfriend.
I didn't hate her character. I just hated the way they used her.
Yeah.
Because I thought... I still think her character is strong, but in this movie she was really useless and just there to be the boobs in the story.
Well, and she wasn't even, well, I don't know if I would go that far because I don't feel like they were using her very like attractively.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like there was any there was one sex sells scene, but I feel like it was only done so they would have something to put in the trailer, which is what it was just like, it's a trailer scene. We've all seen the girl in her underwear.
Yeah.
But the problem I had is anytime she ever did anything, it was because she's worried about Spock. And, like, that's a fine motivation, but it wasn't ever, like, done well. It was always just like, Spock's just fucking Spock. And the more I think about their relationship, the more it actually bothers me in the series. Because, like, it goes into, like, Abrams having no comprehension of the Star Trek universe. In that we know that Vulcans have these kind of set relationships that they have to be in.
Yeah.
Because they have to mate.
Did Spock ever have a relationship beyond his Pon farr wife?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I didn't think
He didn't.
so because...
And you only ever saw her once every 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, Spock had he did take on a lot of Captain Kirk's aspects after his experiences with him, but he never went into like intimate love with another person.
And this was before he even met Kirk.
Yeah.
Like they established his relationship with Uhura existed while she was in the academy, and he was apparently a teacher.
Yeah, prior to he's supposed to be entirely logical before he meets Kirk.
Yeah.
And getting a girlfriend is...
Especially when you're going to put in your crew. Like, that's putting the mission in jeopardy. And the minute, like, okay, Spock may be logical. No, he's logical. And so it doesn't make any logical sense. Like, if you know... He's not retarded to human emotions. Like, he doesn't misunderstand them. He knows when someone's upset or when something's bothering someone, but it's like, this is logical, you should get over it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, with him being okay taking Uhura on the mission to the Klingons, like, while it was, I guess, logical because she's a translator, it wasn't logical in that he knows they're having issues, and she's apparently super emotional in this movie, which it just bothered me. I actually don't think Abrams has a very good comprehension of human emotion. Like, and this is the thing I'm gonna say: crying.
There was a lot of crying.
A lot of crying in this movie, and it seemed most of the time pointless.
Even Spock shed a tear.
Spock shed so many tears.
It was crazy.
And here's the issue I took with that. And this goes to a ton of my issues with Spock, is that, like, I think about the episode with Sarek. Sorry, is it Sarek? Is that his father? Or is it... Yeah, it's Sarek.
Yeah.
When he shows up in Next Gen, he seriously sheds a single tear, and that nods to Captain Picard that something is wrong with him.
Yeah.
And Spock cries probably 3 times in this film. 2 to 3 times he cries. And it's just like, when a Vulcan cries, it should be really poignant.
Mm-hmm.
It should mean something. When in Wrath of Khan, Christy Alley, her Vulcan character, whose name I can't remember for the life of me, she only cries when Spock dies. And she's sort of doing the same arc where she's getting used to humans and working with them and them not being logical.
Yeah.
But she still only cries the one time at the very end of the movie when Spock is being shot off the tube onto the Genesis planet.
Yeah.
And that, again, if we're going to go back and talk about Kirk's death, that's the other thing. And that's really the big problem with that scene, is him dying means nothing if you're going to bring him back 2 scenes later.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe this movie, it did have good aspects. Like
It did.
The action was awesome.
It was really good action.
Like
actually.
when Benedict Cumberbatch was taking on the Klingons.
It was awesome.
It was amazing.
It was awesome. Him fighting the Klingons, the way his preferred method of killing people was so brutal.
He crushed the head of the
Admirable.
No, the
disposable admirable.
Commander of the Federation.
Commander disposable. Yeah.
He wasn't disposable.
Like
he led the Federation.
Okay, he was disposable in that they introduced him in this movie and then killed him.
Yeah.
So admirable, disposable.
But
yeah, he popped his head like a zit and was going to do the same thing to Spock.
Yeah, it
was awesome.
It was madness.
It was really cool.
And then the reaction that
his daughter gave. Yeah.
His daughter gave, that was pretty.
It was pretty cool.
I liked her reaction as well. And I don't know. I thought the animations for just about everything. A lot of the animations were pretty good as well.
Yeah. The CG was really solid. Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the planet in the opening of the movie.
Yeah, it was really cool. I had a ton of issues with that scene though. Many issues.
There were some issues.
I took issue, like, okay. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna start listing questions. How did they get the ship underwater without anyone noticing? How did they get the short range transport into the volcano without anyone noticing? If they launched it from the Enterprise, did they launch it from the Enterprise? Was it while it was underwater, or did they launch it while it was landing?
The short range probe.
The short range transport that they lowered Spock into the volcano with.
What? Oh, that's easy to hide in the clouds.
Yeah, but did they launch it from the underwater ship, or did they launch it while they were in orbit?
Mm-hmm.
How did no one notice it when they were in orbit? If Spock knows they're violating the Prime Directive by stopping the volcano, why does he care then that they're violating the Prime Directive by people seeing them?
Yeah, that was a little odd.
Why do they have volcano-proof suits but not volcano-proof ropes?
I thought it was especially annoying that Spock was like, "No, I'm gonna die because it'll break the Prime Directive if you guys come and save me." Well, you're technically already breaking the Prime Directive by trying to stop the volcano.
Exactly. And like, I'm glad that Pike brings it up, but it's still like, you still did this in your movie. It's still stupid.
And Spock is totally logical.
Yeah.
But this wasn't. This wasn't logical
this wasn't at all. And it's not even like we know anything about these. Like, they only just discovered the wheel. Who cares if they cease to exist? Nobody. Why did they see the planet to begin with? Why did they need to be underwater to scan the planet? Like, it's a fucking... It's the crown ship of the Federation.
Well, I think
why does it not have the ability to scan a planet from orbit?
It makes sense if you're J.J. Abrams. Well, J.J. Abrams, it's all about his directing style, and this is a stylistic choice.
It was a stylistic choice.
Not something that he can logically defend.
Absolutely not.
The Federation would do.
Absolutely not. So in conclusion, I feel like I should like this movie more than I do. Like, it does have a lot of really solid stuff. It's beautifully shot. The action's really solid, but the story just sucks. It has too much, and even regardless of me being a Star Trek fan, just as a cinema fan, it doesn't really have any consistency to it, and that bothered me.
I don't know. I think the only part of me that wasn't salted was the Star Trek fan in me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would go see this movie again just to see if I can like it more.
Yeah.
But
I want to. Yeah, I really feel like I might like it more if I detached myself from it. But even the people who we saw it with, who weren't at all Star Trek fans, were sort of like meh about it.
yeah.
So it's a decent movie and definitely worth seeing, but probably not. Like you're not gonna. It's not gonna be on your favorite movies list.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt. So.
Well, it depends. If you're not a huge Star Trek fan,
It might be.
And you love the action just so much, then you may put it on your favorite list. It is actually a really awesome action movie.
Lots of good action. But, alright, that's it. We'll be back.